Is Professor Wise a new threat that we should worry about? Chapter 249 of Eden Zero has possibly hinted at Rebecca's foster father being the villain that the fandom has always suspected him of being by having him appear out of nowhere on Milts, shooting Rebecca's would-be attacker, and seemingly able to move despite time being frozen. Not to mention him seemingly knowing information about the mysterious Joker Helix that no one else so far has been aware of, has me thinking that the old man Wise might have grown up to be a little bit more devious than his younger counterparts. Now, I mean, look, individually, any one of these things would be suspicious at best, but because it's Professor Wise, the person who basically raised Rebecca, and who another member of the crew is eventually going to grow into being, we could all just eventually decide to look past them. But because we have all four at once, it raises some major red flags that Old Man Wise may not be someone that the crew can completely trust. Because as of right now, there are way too many unknown factors about him that he'll have to give good answers for before we can really begin to rule him out as being an enemy. For starters, why is he here on Milts? How did he know where to find Rebecca? How does he know so much about the Joker Helix when everyone else apparently does not know anything about them in this universe? And most importantly, how is he able to move when time is supposedly stopped? Now, I mean, admittedly, the first two questions could be easily explained by him. Why is he here on Milts? Well, it could just be that he was looking for Rebecca and figured at some point she might end up here because, well, her mom and dad are here. Or it could be that he was tracking down the Joker Helix drone and just followed it to the planet. How did he know where to find Rebecca? Well, again, going with the second answer of the first question, he was tracking down the drone. He just happened to follow it here, and since the drone was hunting down Rebecca, obviously him following the drone would eventually lead him to Rebecca. And those are answers that I could see the crew saying, you know what, yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. Now, the next question is a little bit more eyebrow raising. How does he know so much about Joker Helix? And the most likely answer, or at least the one I can come up with right now, is that more than likely, Professor Wise was the one who created Joker Helix. Which immediately should raise red flags with the crew when they stop and realize that he created the android that not only joined Void 1 in his attempt to rid the universe of all living creatures, and not only this universe but literally every universe that's ever been created, but it also created another android specifically seemingly with the sole purpose to hunt down and kill Rebecca. I know Rebecca loves Old Man Wise and basically sees him as like her adopted father, and the crew most likely want to trust him because of the fact that, well, their Wise eventually grows up to basically be him. But with all this evidence just right there for that one question alone, I would be wondering whether or not he's someone the crew should be around. And you know what? I'm actually just now realizing this, but if fake Joker is actually the one that did stop time, that would mean Wise would have had to have given the real Helix Time Ether at some point. And considering how extremely rare that is in this universe, I believe Rebecca's family is the only one across all the universes that actually have access to Time Ether. That would mean he must have stolen it from Rebecca when he was raising her, which again raises major red flags around this old man. But we're going to take that thought and put it over here to the side for now, because as of right now, it is still much more likely that Rebecca was the one that actually stopped time. Which actually brings us to the final question, how was he able to move when time is still frozen? Because as far as we can tell during the ending of the chapter, time is still frozen. And I only say that because there's no indication or hints that the gears around them are moving. And if they were, there will be some kind of like sound effects that we will see on the page. And we don't see any of that. As far as we can tell, and I know the manga pages are still images, but usually manga creators, especially someone as skilled as Hiro Mashima, is able to indicate some kind of movement in objects around them. And the fact that we don't see any movement on these gears or any hints of it really has me thinking that time is still frozen. So again, I ask, how is Old Man Wise able to move in frozen time when even someone like Shiki with gravity ether is affected by it? And I personally can't really think of an answer to that, at least not one right away that would actually make him seem not evil, because the only answer I can really think of that would actually make sense to me would be, again, going back to him stealing time ether from Rebecca when she was a child, then maybe stole some time ether from her, or, you know, siphoned some from her at some point, and experimented on a way to make himself able to move throughout time without being affected by its effects, I guess? I don't know, that's the best way I can think to explain it. Which again, either way, really does make it seem like he might be a possible threat to Rebecca in the future. And look, even if you want to throw in the argument that time actually is moving at the end of the chapter, fine, I'll give you that, it might be. But that still doesn't explain how Wise managed to get to them so quickly. Because there were a lot of steps to get them from where the fight ended at the end of the chapter. They started off in the woman's bath and then moved over into the men's, ran inside the building, fake Joker kicked Rebecca through the floor, still don't know how she didn't take major damage from that, She landed on some gears, ran across a few more gears, activated her overdrive, kicked Fake Joker's butt across a few more gears, and then finally they landed on a walkway. With all of that movement and time being frozen, the only possible way for Wise to have made it to them in time is if he was already down there when time started moving again. But if he is able to move when time is frozen, then it does make some sense that he was able to keep up with their fight. But we'll have to wait until the next chapter to see if any of these questions are brought up. But speaking of the fight, this was hands down the best fight Rebecca's had in the entire series, despite how short it was and her being naked for the first half of it and only being covered by a towel in the second. But to be fair, she was surprise attacked while in the bath, so we can't fault her on that one. And speaking of the bath, that is the only reason why the fight lasted as long as it did, because she started out wet and naked in a snow-covered outdoor bath, and her body was just way too cold to activate her overdrive and fight back. But once she was able to run to someplace warmer, it was game over for the android. But we still don't... Actually, you know what? I've been saying but a lot in this video. Let me switch that up. However, because the android... because the android couldn't do more than growl, we don't know why it was after Rebecca. Hell, we only know it's connected to Joker Helix because of the fact that it said Joker Helix somewhere on the android. So that's still a question. That's still a question that we're gonna have to get answered at some point later on. I'm guessing more than likely Void has somehow gained memories of Universe 3. I don't know how. It's still a question how he knows anything about what happened to Ziggy in the previous universe. So he obviously has some way of gaining memories about things he shouldn't know about. So I wouldn't put it past him. But more likely, he gained memories of his experience in Universe 3, knew about Rebecca's time abilities, and decided to send an assassin to take her out. That being said though, if Void actually is the one responsible for Joker Helix sending the fake Joker Helix after Rebecca, why didn't it go after Shiki and the others as well? That's kind of weird when you think about it. I mean, they were literally frozen in time. And sure, they did attack Shiki and them, or I should say, I guess it did attack Shiki and them while they were in the bath, but it was clearly doing that to try to get Rebecca into a tight spot, and not really after them, it was solely after Rebecca. So why didn't it go after the much easier targets? But I guess that's something else we'll have to wait until the next chapter to try to find out. Until then, we can only speculate as to why the android was targeting Rebecca, and how is Professor Wise connected to Joker Helix.